Hi, welcome back to another episode of Cold Stream Rod Shop. I'm Derek Fraser. In this week's video, we're going to be working on the 58 Ford Cab here. The intention by the end of the week, I hope, is to have it attached up to this rotisserie. There's a bunch of different accessories that have come with it and a few weld-on brackets. I have to decide essentially where I'm going to hook it up. I think on the back of the cab here, the cab mounts are good, so I think the intention would be to attach the back half to the cab mounts, and then in the front of the cab, the front cab mounts are pretty much gone. That's one of the projects I have to work on, so I'm going to have to try and select somewhere on the firewall there where these will hook up and basically make some brackets that will go onto the rotisserie. It should be straightforward, but as you know, sometimes nothing's straightforward when it looks simple. So anyway, follow along on that one. There's a few tidy up things we still have to do on Brenda's Roadster. I've got to hook up the rear flex line. I'm waiting for a fitting to come in for the clutch hydraulic line. Unfortunately, I ordered one in. It was a 3AN fitting, which I thought was correct, but I was wrong. I need a 4AN. So anyways, that'll be here in a couple days. The drive shaft, the owner has gone and actually he's getting one made up. So the plan with this, kind of like I said I think I said at the end of the last video, is to hook the clutch up, get the brakes all bled, get the drive shaft in, and then the body is coming here. So there is a Brookville Roadster 32 Ford Roadster body coming. It's all in primer. There's no floor into it. There's no front transmission cover. Part of that project, when we get this on here, he wants me to make the X member in the back and then the transmission tunnel and the floor into it. That'll be, I don't know what part of all of that we're going to get done this week, but that's kind of where this is going. And then I've ordered some parts for the camera lady's Roadster chassis. If it comes in, we'll work on it. But the main focus this week will be to try and get the 58 Ford Cab body on the rotisserie and then start looking at how to take the floor apart. Well, I've been messing around with the rotisseries here for about an hour or so. I managed to get the body off of this makeshift dolly that's made up of 4x4s and these wheels. Had it jacked up. We've got the back located on the rear section of the rotisserie, which was pretty straightforward. It just basically, we had some brackets and we mounted it through the existing rear cab mounts. Now the trouble now with the front is because there's so much rust damage there on the supports, I've got to figure out where to locate it. So at the moment, the existing brackets for the rotisserie, which are quite flexible, aren't going to get me into anywheres underneath the front mounts because, like I said, the front mounts are gone. So my thought process here is actually to locate off of these mounts here off of the A-pillar, which are very sound. It's where the door is connected to. So I'm thinking either there or maybe even locating up off of the firewall, possibly even drilling a couple holes just that I'll weld over later. But I need something basically pretty strong and robust that's not going to flex kind of when I tip the body over to start making the repairs. But like I said, unfortunately, the front cab mounts are gone, so that's part of what I need to fix. And also what I've got to do with the rotisserie is basically keep the center of gravity here at the same place as the one in the back. So wherever this point is off of the floor, the front one has to be there, and then basically raise up the brackets to meet the body. That way when I go to rotate it, it's going to rotate along the same axis. So anyways, I'm going to carry on with this. I'm sure I'm going to figure it out here, but at the moment, I've got to think about it for a bit. Well, there's the truck cab on the rotisserie. It's looking like I don't have a big enough garage to completely rotate it. Probably by about 4 or 5 inches, unfortunately, but nevertheless, I still have something that I can maneuver, I can get it up at working heights and get at all the different areas that you can't easily get at when it's close to the ground. So there's quite a bit of work to be done on this. So maybe a little more than what I thought, but probably just as much as what I was told. So it's kind of typical stuff, like the front cab mount supports are gone, which we knew that, and the inner and outer rear corners are gone. Some of this stuff I probably could make the panels for, but the gentleman that owns this, he's buying all new panels. So we've got some of them here right now. We've got floor sections. We've got the front cab mounts, and we've got the running boards. And then I believe there's new pieces, the pieces that go up on the sides of the running boards right there. He's ordered those. Inner and outer corners in the back, right down there. So pretty much every piece that's rotted is being reproduced for these things. And over the next couple of weeks, we should have it, all the pieces here. And then basically what I'm going to do is try to put a strategy together as to which piece do I cut out first and replace. Because obviously I don't want to cut it all out at the same time, because then you start losing the structural the rigidity to the structure and stuff, right? So gonna have to put a little bit of thought into that. Okay, which one first, and then maybe reinforce something. More than likely, I think I'm going to tip the cab back up level and work at it level, and then when I need to get underneath, I'll rotate it. I mean, most of us are used to working on cars from the top and then getting underneath when we have to. It's quite the luxury to have something like this where we can rotate it and get up underneath. I mean, it would be obviously really cool if I could rotate it another 30 degrees or so and have that floor, have it either upside down or have the floor completely vertical. But anyways, I'm grateful to have this rotisserie in the first place, because it's going to make life easier working on this cab. So anyway, follow along and let's see where we start. So I put the cab back level. I think that if I were to take the casters off, I could probably rotate it completely up on its side, but I'm not really sure that I absolutely need to do that. Just having the cab, a couple feet off the ground and not have to lay flat on my back and weld completely upside down is going to be a real treat. Now, really wasn't sure where to start, and I guess there's no best place where to start. I don't think on this. Essentially, the front, floor and the front cab mounts got to be replaced, and then the running boards here have to be replaced as well. We have those. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the driver's side floor. I'm going to mark this out. I'm going to cut it out. I think maybe for precautionary reasons, I may just put in an X here, which might get in my way, but just in case the body flexes. I don't think it's going to, but just something just says to just be a little cautious and put something there anyways. So I'm going to work on that. The other thing, with this commercial rotisserie, I kind of had to get used to the safety features and all the locks and the bolts and the nuts, and everything's all cool. It is quite steady up there right now. I'm going to leave it on the casters. That way I can move it around and kind of still work on the camera lady's chassis and Brenda's Roadster, because we kind of have to keep all of them going kind of thing. So let's get the floor cut out and some bracing put in there and see where we go. So after some more careful thought, a little bit of change in plans, I think we are going to approach this cab the same way I would do like on all the 32 stuff I've done. What I've realized is that this structure here, as we go along in this bottom part connected to the A-frame, kind of is just like a sub rail. as we had on like the 32 Fords. So that section there, when it's all repaired, it ties into the A-pillar there. And then the back of the A-pillar it's still attached, but it's kind of pretty funky in the back there. So what I think I'm going to do is I am going to focus on making repairs to the back of the A-pillar here. I don't know if I can show it. I'm going to swing around here, and if we can get up underneath. Look at that, I can even zoom in. So there it is there. There's the back of it. So the front cab mount would actually weld to the back of that. So I'm going to make a repair to that first, get that all sorted out, and then make my repairs to the bottom part of the A-pillar, get that all tied in and straight, and then we'll work on the floor. Well, I'm sticking with the strategy of working on these step sides, which are, I guess, analogous to, sub rails, kind of like on what I'm used to working on. And I'm quite sure I'm on the right path here. So what I did, I cut out some of the rot on the inside there where the floor mount was. The floor mount was going across there. So this piece, I don't know if I can show that. I got out of there, and then where my index finger was where the floor mount was. So I'm going to cut that out and make a piece to replace it. But the one thing I realized, and I'm kind of happy I found it. Not happy that it's there, but this section here has dropped. You can see the weld there. It's dropped probably 3/8 to 1/2 of an inch. So it's detached from the A-pillar. So good, I found it now. So, and it's good that we're taking this approach. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get some jacks. I'm going to raise that up, and then I'm going to drill a couple holes there, and either put screws into it or weld it in place so that we've got some alignment. So anyway, beginning to get something done. Here's the first patch that we made so far. This is going to be a little long and tedious, doing the bottom of the A-pillar, because there's basically all 4 sides to go. But the first one we did is this little piece here, which I don't know if I can show it or not. I made it in 2 pieces. So the first piece here was basically I bent it up and then basically took it on the vise and beat this corner, around here, and then I welded this side piece on. So that is going to go right in there. Well, it fit really good a couple seconds ago, and it's got to fit again. There we go. So it's going to weld in there. I'm going to weld it up here along this edge, along the A-pillar and up there. And then when I replace this, which is up here, then I will drill holes here and then spot weld it to the new step. And then on the inside, there's another piece that I have to make. You can see right here. So there's a flat piece that projects all the way in that way. That's probably going to be last. I'm going to do this piece, and then I'm going to work my way, as you can see, and basically build up this side here and over here. And more than likely, that's going to be done in a couple pieces. But that's what we're going to stick with right now. Once we have this all reconstructed along all 4 sides, because then I can actually weld from behind if I have to. Then I'll put this back piece across here. Then everything will be all tightened up and squared up. So that may take me the entire episode to do this, because it's quite an elaborate reconstruction on this corner. So follow along. I'll show you as I go. There's the first patch all welded in and dressed up. Happy with it so far. When I compare it to the other side, I'm keeping the right kind of contours, the same kind of overlap here and the same kind of overlap on this side. So it's going to look just like it was stock. I mean, by the time we go ahead and put some seam sealer onto it like you normally do, you'll never know that that was repaired. So anyway, that's step one. Now we're going to work around to the front. A little bit trickier panels. That's why I started with the one in the back first. And more than likely, this one across the front will be made from a couple pieces. Not sure which one I'll do first, whether I'll do the one on the side or one in the front, or it may even be made into 3 pieces. So gonna have to figure that out. So I'll show you the thought process and show you how it goes. So this is the passenger side that I'm gonna try and make a pattern off of to make a patch for the driver's side. What I'm starting with is I'm gonna take my little template making device here, and I've driven it in there, and I've got the basic shape of what I need to make that piece of metal. So my thought process was to take a piece of flat metal, bend a flange onto it, and then shrink this, stretch this section out and shrink it in here, and basically have the metal, make a piece of metal that would follow this shape there. I've got one over on the table here where I've started, and things are kind of progressing in the right direction. So this is what I've come up with right there. So I started with a flat piece of metal, and then I bent this flange up, and then I just kept stretching this edge here. And what I was doing was taking it on my little dolly here, because what'll happen is when you stretch this flange, the whole section doesn't bend. So as you stretch this, then you would go along and you would work the metal over the dolly to get that shape. And then the same thing happened around here. And then what I wanted to do was to bend this piece back up. So took it over to the brake. And then basically bent that bottom flange up. So right now we've got a patch that's starting to resemble what we want right there. So, sorry, gotta keep moving my camera the right way, I apologize. So we're getting into the right direction now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start trimming that and trying to get, I'll clean up that bottom corner there where basically I've bent the 2 flanges up and one overlaps the other. So I'll cut one off, and then I'll start trimming this up so it fits there, sorry. So it fits in this section. Now, there's going to be another shape over this way, and so there's going to be some more working along. When I cut this edge over, I'm going to have to fold it over some, and there'll be a second patch that'll go over on this side. So one here, and I'll make another one here. Hopefully we'll be able to make this 1 and 2. So that's the intermediate step of making the patch, and now we just gotta do a little bit more work to it. So there's the new patch welded in. I was gonna stop along the way, but I got on a roll here. I trimmed it up, and it was fitting really good. And then I put the clamps onto it and basically got it welded in place. I was quite happy with it. I just didn't slow down there. But essentially it was the patch like I showed you a couple seconds ago, and then just basically trimmed along the bottom here. I went to the other side to basically take the measurements of how thick this flange would be, how long this flange would be, and then the basic shape of this side, and then basically over on the dolly that you saw me work on the bench there, I just took my hammer and I rounded this edge over. I did have to do a little shrinking and stretching as I got around it, because when you push the material over this edge, it has to shrink because it's curved this way. And then when I push the material this way, I had to stretch it as I roll it over, so that way I get that S shape again. Now, I still have to do the side piece here. I don't know if it's going to be any more challenging than the other one, but it's basically going to have to take a piece of paper make a cutout and then start bending metal, going back and forth and back and forth. Doesn't appear to be any flanges on it from the others. When I look at the other side, it just has to be welded in place. So over here, well, actually, yes. So we're basically gonna make this along here, and then there's a little flange across the bottom here. So we're gonna make a flange here. There'll be a spot weld there, a spot weld there. And then over here, this is the patch we already did earlier. So the spot weld will go into the step here. And then there is that flange that I just described that I cut and made. So there'll be a spot weld there and a spot weld there. So once we have all the way around here, then we're going to go around to the back and do the back piece. So once those 4 pieces are done, those 4 patches basically. So again, there's the front piece. Okay, sorry, that was the back piece. There's the front piece. We'll do one from the side, and then the big hole there where my fingers are, we'll do a piece there. Then we're going to be in a position to put this piece in, and then that will basically tighten this whole side up. We're going to have sub rails, so to speak, when we're talking about when we're doing the 32 Fords. So the A and the B pillar will be completely connected, the step, and then this piece will keep that rigidity into it. So anyways, we're going to carry on here, and we'll get another piece made. Well, I was working away here this morning, got a little bit of the patch done up in this little corner. So now I've got a smaller patch to make. Like you just do it in steps. But one thing, when I was going back and forth between the 2 sides, I realized that it's out of alignment. A couple indicators are, and I'll show you, the A pillar has actually not, before I had to reattach it because it had dropped, but the A pillar had actually moved in. The cab, I guess the door jamb got smaller by about 1/2 inch. There's 2 places you'll notice. One, where this lip comes down, it should actually be in alignment with here when we check the other side. And the distance between this and this body line here should only be about 1/2 inch, and it's actually closer to 1 1/8 inch. So we'll go over the other side and you'll see. And also when I measure the width of the door gap, so over here, you can see the distance between here and here is only 1/2 inch. On the other side, it's 1 inch. And the other thing, this tab overhangs this portion, whereas on the other side, this tab is in line with this. So gonna have to break my welds apart, and the welds that I did right here, I'm gonna have to cut them, and I'm gonna have to move the doors open by about 5/8 of an inch. I'll get some either a hydraulic jack, or I'll get one of my woodworking clamps, and I'll reverse them so that you can screw the distance and make the door jambs bigger and push that A pillar back out to where it's supposed to be. So anyways, a little bit of a hitch. I didn't realize that the A pillar had actually disengaged that much from the body. I should have known better, but anyway, we're going to fix it, and we'll see you in a couple minutes. So here's my workspace where I've got the hydraulic jack, and I've pushed the A pillar out, and I've made that next patch. As you can see there, it's clamped in place. Needs a tiny little bit more tweaking, but what I'm going to do is I am going to weld that patch in, and then there's 2 spot welds that go on either side of that hole that'll actually weld to the bottom step. Now the outside of the step is not going to be replaced. We want to try and keep this patina here. So that step up there, that replacement step, we're going to cut part of it out. We're only going to replace the rusty part when I get to it. But right now we've got the right width on the door. I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to get that all welded up and spot welded in place. Hopefully I'll be able to release the hydraulic jack there, so that, but we've got that 5/8 or more of an inch. We've moved the A-pillar out. And I think it was just because like the floor has basically disintegrated there. So we'll take a couple other measurements, diagonal and stuff. But right now, it looks like we're back on track. We've got the door alignment. So watch and we'll see the finished welded product. Okay, so finally got the outside patch done now. We're looking pretty good there. Got everything welded and ground. And I basically put 2 spot welds here. I drilled all the way through with a 1/4 inch drill and basically welded them. And then I went around from behind just in case and gave it an extra tack. I measured the doors again, and we got the right gap on the door. And if you see over here, that's 5/8 of an inch that I actually had to spread it apart. Now I still have to lift the floor up probably about 1/8 of an inch or so. Oops, right now. Should move my tools off the floor. But the next step is actually to make the inner piece. So this step, there's a piece of sheet metal. Oh, there's a piece of sheet metal that goes and follows all the way around here, straight in there, and it goes straight over, and it welds up against the back of the A-pillar. And then there's like a little lip here. You can see it. So it'll be a flat piece with a bend onto it. We're going to weld in place, and then that's what ultimately the new floor pan will weld up against. But it also basically ties the A-pillar into the whole structure. So going to do that right after lunch, and we're carrying on with it. There is the inner piece all welded in. I'll try and position the camera so you can see right there. It was a straightforward piece, basically just a flat piece of metal and bent up on the edge here so that the floor can come up and weld underneath it. See the lip here, and then it's welded along the seam. And we did a couple spot welds along here. So basically now that whole side rail or sub rail, whatever, is all tied together to the A-pillar. The next up is going to be to cut out part of this step, or most of the step. There's going to be, obviously, there's a hole here, there's a little bit of rot there, but it's actually pretty sound over here. So more than likely I am going to cut most of this out over to here along this edge, and then make a patch here wherever it's rotted, and then try and fit that most of that step in there and weld it up. And then there was no more step. So one of the things I was asked to do on this particular job was to leave as much of the exterior patina as possible, the color, because on the outside of the truck, it's going to be all patina. You know, the original color, the paint, a little bit of rust or whatever. Then on the inside, it's going to be completely finished. Underneath, it's going to be a fully finished frame. He just wants the look on the outside. So what I have to do is actually save this section here. Now, what I noticed on this side is that the joints here are really good along here. There's no sense in breaking the welds. I do have to, looks like I'm going to have to cut a small section out there and replace it. And then these tabs, the other end of that tab, I've got to weld up inside there. So this should be relatively straightforward. And oh, the other thing too, on the bottom of the step, there's this reinforcing piece. Don't have that on this panel. So I'm going to have to make one of these up and weld it on the bottom of this panel. So well, I say it's straightforward, but you never know. We had an issue with the corner there being out of square. Nothing's moved with me cutting this out because it's all, everything is all strengthened up here with this big wide section. I just have to cut a piece of that to fit that hole. But first, like I said, I'm going to cut probably a 6-inch section of this out, replace the metal in the back. I looked from behind and underneath, and it's really, really sound. It's just that one small 4-inch piece there that's rusted up. So we're getting onto it. So there's a repair on this panel here. I came up about 3/4 of an inch up here. I went around back and looked for the holes. Went a little larger than I wanted to in the beginning, but it is about 9 inches long. Got a nice solid piece of 18 gauge here, and it's been spot welded up underneath. Give the spot weld look, and the metal sound all the way around it, so I'm not worried about that. And then what I also did, I cut this little dog leg that stuck out here, and I welded it in here. Fitting wise, it made more, well, it was easier for me to actually cut that section out and weld it up underneath. So I don't know if I can show. Yeah, it's welded up underneath here. It's welded all the way around. Some places I actually didn't do spot welds. I stitched it along here. Could have done the spot welds, but stitching is just as good. I'm trying to keep it as close as I can to the way it was built. I mean, I'm going to dress some of this stuff up just a little bit, make it a little prettier. Maybe nobody's ever going to see it again after we paint it, but anyways, we're trying to do it right here. Also at the bottom of the A-pillar, I put the 3 spot welds here to the bottom plate. So tomorrow what I'm going to do is I will make this piece that has to go on the bottom of that, and I will cut this out to fit this hole and weld it in place. So there's the bottom of the step that I cut out from the patch panel. I took the original one and basically put it on the bottom and traced it out. And then, like I said, one of the things that we needed to do was we needed to make a new one of these. So essentially just measured it up, got the dimensions of where it bends or whatever, and made 2 of these up on the new metal brake. It's pretty straightforward to make the 4 bends onto it. Anyways, I also went off of the original to see where they were spot welded, and they were basically spot welded onto the high points. So drilled holes in these and spot welded it in place. So this piece here is now ready to weld into the pickup over here. I don't know if I can do this with one-handed kind of thing, but I trial fitted it a few minutes ago, and it fits in there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use those welding clamps. I'm going to put it all the way around, weld this panel all the way around, and get hopefully this finished up. One thing I didn't mention was one of the important things of putting, well, it's not focusing very well. One of the important things of putting that panel in there is that the body support actually welds to it. Now I can't put that in until I replace this floor panel. So anyways, first comes first, we're going to weld this panel in, and then we're going to move on to the next step. Here's the finished product. Got the step all welded in and ground flat. I think as you saw from my many clips this week of me showing what I was doing, we replaced this part of the step and put a new piece on the bottom. So it's all welded in, and then there was a total of, I think, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's I think 5 different pieces that we had to make for the bottom of the A-pillar to tie everything in. But right now it is super solid. Everything is tied in the way that it should be. The measurements for the door are correct. And never really got anything done on the 32s this week, so it was 58 Ford Cab week. So
58?
Yeah,
54?
58.
Oh,
58. I thought it was a 57 at one point, but it's actually a 1958 Ford F100 Cab. A lot of them, I think, from 57, because somebody wrote on the bottom of here, 57 to 60, there's a lot of similarities and exchangeable parts on them. But this is specifically a 1958 Ford Cab. So anyways, that's it for this week. Please like, share, tag, and subscribe, and come back next week and see what we're doing, most likely on the 58 Ford Cab.